I'm going to wait for the boom. I feel like the boom was coming in right there, Steve. I felt it, brother. What's happening, gang? You are back live. This is The Secret Stash. I'm your host, Jesse Ibanez, co-founder of the Greenhouse Group, located right down here in the heart of San Diego, helping folks move into and out of homes. That's our game, David. You know anybody moving into or out of a home?
No, I hope to be soon, though.
But when you do, you know you can come hang out. We're actually located right down in the heart of San Diego and Mission Valley, serving about 90% of the county. So hopefully we'll find yourself, well, with this, as well as SD3D.com is doing, we'll probably get you something with sand in your toes.
That's right. I'm hoping
that sound?
for it.
Does that sound good?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I got the nod of approval over there from the SO. Good. All right. So, gang, if you're tuning in right now for the first time, we are flanked by a soon-to-be local legend, okay, preceded by his fans. There's a mob and crew outside the studio right now just waiting for him. It's David Feeney. He's the owner of SD3D.com. 3D printing that is going to change the world.
That's right.
We've been riffing on this, so if you want to catch this broadcast, we can see all the this broadcast and all the rebroadcasts over at secretstashradio.com. And we're streaming live on Twitter right now through the Meerkat app. So you can go to Follow the Stash over on Twitter. And we actually got our first question for you, my man. So hot seat, right?
Yep.
Dun, 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 like a millionaire. Mm-hmm. Digital Jeff wants to know, do you make your own 3D printers?
Yeah, well, I mean, so that's a great question. We didn't, we never wanted to make our own 3D printers. Let me just start saying that. I mean, you know, we started off as a service and we just wanted to use what was out there on the market. And for the most part, we were fairly successful doing that. But the issue that I brought up earlier in the show of not being able to just click print and go, that really piled up on our desk really quickly, especially as we started to take in other local businesses' 3D printers because it was too much of a hassle for them to dedicate to.
So they were like almost outsourcing to you.
That's exactly what it was. I mean, literally, they would hand us their 3D printer and say, please take this from me and give me my parts. And basically, it's kind of a timeshare on the 3D printer, the way that we make it work. We give them their parts for literally the cost that, you know, it costs us to make their parts. And then we get the other, you know, half of the machine time to make higher margin, you know, prototyping off of. And that's kind of how that whole relationship works.
And by the way, how important is this conversation we're having right now? My insight, and hopefully if it's yours, Stash Nation as well, if you're hearing this conversation for the first time, is that probably it was the same as those poor companies that bought the 3D printer, thinking that that was the solution.
That's exactly
and that they catted it up, they hit print, and they had their thing. Little did they know, which is why you have a job and an amazing future, young man, is that that's just the beginning of it. And that your mastery and your engineering is what has to happen thereafter to actually get it to the, you know, where it needs to be.
Exactly. And so, yeah, you're segueing into exactly why we started to develop our own, you know, 3D printer is that we, over the past 3 years, found out why those failures were happening for the most part. And, you know, we didn't just work with one 3D printer. We've worked with dozens of different manufacturers. And for the most part, they're all about 30% failure rate. And we're able to now bring that down through all the things that we've innovated on the 3D printer down to around 1%. And we hope to bring that even down further through our automated network.
Wow. That's cool, man. So let's talk about 3D printing in the home a little. By the way, thank you, Digital Jeff. If you got any more questions, make sure you hit us up on Follow the Stash over on Twitter. We'll be able to get him over to David for his commentary. What about 3D printing in the home? Like I have this idea that what's going to happen is we're going to eventually get in the not too distant future where 3D printing is going to be able to move its way all the way to market. Yeah. Right? Like you said, where it's like, hopefully you hit the print, you know, and you don't need a David Feeney to basically come back like a minion, you know, like the Little Incredibles and all your to be able to actually make it happen, that it's actually like a one-click kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that you could replace broken parts in your coffee machine, to use the analogy from earlier, even down to like, I know doctors are talking about this all the way in the medical field of like replacing bones and organs. And that might be a whole different rabbit hole for a different show. But how do you see 3D printing showing up in the home first?
It's really interesting that you say that because there are, you know, 3D printers right now that are being marketed for home use. And we're in a very interesting time in the industry where...
But how could they? Because they still need you.
That's exactly the issue, right? So there's actually been a turn in the market where it's cooling off because these companies are trying to bring their product to market too quickly. They're bringing them to the home and they're ending up being just, you know, collecting dust in the corner after about a month after they get uncalibrated. So, you know, one of the things we started doing is offering a 3D printer repair service. So there's a little gap in the market there. And that's, for the most part, been helping to keep the dust off the printers. But in general, it is just a big hassle. I mean, at the end of the day, we still have to charge for that repair, and it ends up getting costly for something that you thought was only going to cost you maybe $400 to $600, ends up costing you, several thousand over the first couple of years of operation. That's not where 3D printers should be in the home. So once we're done with our development and we're able to really just click print and things print, our goal is to actually be able to partner up with the OEMs, the manufacturers of, like, say, your TV, your microwave, your coffee maker, and we actually make those devices into smart devices so that you don't have to pay for your printer. We give you your printer, and those smart devices will tell your printer whenever something breaks and needs to be replaced. And you'll be charged through just basically a subscription plan, so that whenever something needs to be replaced in your house and through your own preference that you would set up, it just gets done without you having to think about it. And not only that, you'd be sent instructions on how exactly to replace it.
Wow. I need my Funk Master Flex button again because you just exploded my brain. So what I just heard you say is that basically it's about fulfillment. So right now, our Amazon is going to be in everybody's, house.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the direction I guarantee you that Amazon is going. I've even spoke with some of those people about that.
So if you might, say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon's a crazy company. I mean, they're awesome. They are trying to deliver things through drones, and they're trying to literally put 3D printers on trucks right now and print things on the way to the doorsteps.
Brilliant.
And it's great. So they have very long-term vision, and they're going to stay around because of that. And one day they're going to be a big part of how every physical object makes it into your living room.
Right.
And that's really what they're trying to position themselves into right now. And they have the same vision we do as how that's going to happen.
Well, it's already happened in my house just with Prime.
Yeah, exactly.
When you get to the age where you have little minions of your own running around, you'll see that is the greatest gift that anybody's ever given you, because in less than 2 days, you've got whatever supplies you need already dropped off your doorstep.
Yeah, and Amazon Pantry now is even all your groceries. It's crazy. I never thought that would be a real thing.
I've been dying for that to take off. I thought that was going to be one of the ones that exploded at the whole .com bust, but that did implode.
A lot of people tried that too, and it just didn't really completely work out, but Amazon got it right. It's pretty awesome.
Amazon is getting it right? Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few of our employees that use exclusively the Amazon Pantry service for getting their groceries.
Yeah. And how is it similar or dissimilar? Like, are they kind of modeling the whole Blue Apron kind of thing where, like, they tell you how to cook it and stuff too? Or is it more like a grocery store?
It's more like a grocery store, and you're really just trying to... The way that they set it up is they have you pack it into boxes of specific size, and you pack as much as you can into that size. Because at the end of the day, they're a logistics company, right?
Yeah.
So their cost goes into, how much space a box takes up.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so interesting to them where we're going with 3D printing and where the future of 3D printing is, because at the end of the day, this is actually a play to displace logistics entirely.
Dude, you're so right.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like playing Tetris inside every little box if you've got the 3D printer, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so before, the way that, say a toothbrush got to your house, it would, there would be millions of them made in China. Those would all get shipped out, probably land somewhere in Long Beach. They would then be, trucked out to all their distributors. From their distributors, those get, sent out to the grocery stores or whatever, Walmart, wherever you're going to buy it. Yep. And then from there, you got to drive to that Walmart. You got to drive back home. That is a huge carbon footprint. It's insanely long just for you to get that toothbrush. In the future, you're going to get that toothbrush with zero carbon footprint whatsoever. It's just going to land on your desk.
And is that true that that 3D printing has a zero carbon footprint?
Yeah, automated 3D printing does. I mean, the only carbon footprint would be getting the plastic onto your printer, right? But that's a much lower carbon footprint than every little item having to make it to your doorstep.
I was speaking more to my ignorance around whether there was like any waste involved with this kind of thing.
There is a small amount of waste. I mean, so whenever you get a failure, right, that's waste, and so that's a big reason why we're trying to reduce that, and we're trying to put in protocol for recycling those types of things.
You could recycle that.
There are ways. So right now it's fairly complex. You have to kind of shred it down. There's no public, I actually recently found out about this. There's no public recycling for 3D printing plastics. So we've been accumulating all these plastics, and we've recently just instead of us trying to melt it back down, it's a new process that we'd have to put in place. So we just tried to take it to the city to recycle and see if they could do something with it, and they actually don't accept it.
Why? How come?
They also don't have the processes set up.
So it becomes like a special kind of plastic that.
It's because it has to be sorted a very, very specific way for them to be able to recycle it properly. And so now, those are processes that we'll go ahead and start to put in place, and we'll probably end up, shredding it down ourselves and then making it a new filament if we have to go to that level of sorting. So
it's a whole new business.
It's a whole new business. Yeah. So these things are just kind of falling in our laps, so to speak. I mean, these opportunities just come to us, and because they're necessities in the market.
And I love that thought. David Feeney, of course, hanging out with us right now. He's the owner of SD3D. You can check him out at sd3d.com, or you can call him. He's got an 800 number. It's 530-9140. Again, that's 800-530-9140. If you are one of those guys who is bitten or stung by the entrepreneurial buzz and perhaps have always had that one invention, usually it's the tinkerers, it's the guy who works and has mastery around this one little thing and uses a handful of 2 or 3 to 5 widgets and is just at that all day long and realizes like, oh, wait a minute, if this thing was just like this. And then the challenge then that's created with that person, with the separation between having the idea and then actually being able to get it into a physical form, has just been solved by my man David Feeney, SD3D.com. So David, coming up, let's put a bookend on this conversation. I want to try to wrap our heads once and for all around the concept of instant feedback and about how this is basically the new industrial revolution.
Yes.
All right, prepared for that? So let's do that right after the break. Real Talk Radio San Diego. That's what the Secret Stash is all about. We got some cool local people talking about some cool local stuff. We'll be right back, gang.